2023 is already off to a very, very, very interesting year. The end of 22 was very interesting as well. But I want to share some of my, I'll call them insights, my intuitive insights on 2023. The first thing, and this is something that I just saw, is that the we're gonna have a Friday, the 13th, this month in January. So the first month of 2023 will have a Friday, the 13th. I don't know if that's significant or not. I do feel like 2023 is going to be a very eventful year. I feel like it's almost going to have that kind of significance of, like, not to say that I feel like something significantly bad is going to happen, though it may, but it'll have that headline, 2023 will be the headline. So perhaps that means that something will happen early in 2023, because that would be a reason to make the headline, like 2023 already off to a crazy start. And right now, there's already been like a couple crazy things. It seems like there's been quite a few high profile deaths. I know Barbara Walters died at the end of 2022, but then we kicked off 2023. And for me, growing up in Mississippi, Gangsta Boo was pretty significant. And I actually had, in 2022, listened to quite a bit of throwback Gangsta Boo music. And so it is a tragedy to see that she passed away. And even like seeing like Glorilla, I saw something recent about Glorilla was working with her, so it's just very interesting. And that she died on her porch. I don't know that they've said what exactly happened to her, but it sounds like it was some type of drug overdose, perhaps. But I don't know that for certain. But and then the football player, what was his name? Damar Hamlin, collapsing on the field. That was a very strange thing to see last night. Now, 2022 didn't seem to get too crazy until Will Smith got up on that stage and smacked Chris Rock. And that kind of really sparked this whole conversation of people saying Jada was to blame and Will Smith was to blame. I'm not going to really even touch that, but it does seem like there's a lot of gender battles that kind of went on, like, in a lot of different ways. So perhaps that's something that is going to come to a head even more significantly in 2023. Hopefully we don't see any, like, we've seen, like, and I guess it wouldn't be a new thing. We've seen, like, race-based hate crimes, or we've seen hate crimes that, and really, we've seen the gender identity-based hate crimes. So I don't know if it's just gonna be straight up gender crimes that we see, people targeting feminists. Hopefully none of that kind of comes to pass, but it seems like some of that energy is just kind of continuing. What else? I actually think that if I'm going to give a date, February 13th. 44 days into this new year, perhaps might be an interesting date. I taken some notes over the past couple days on what I thought might be significant in the coming year. And here's just a quick rundown of that. One, I think perhaps there'll be some big news around Beyonce and Jay-Z, particularly more Jay-Z, but perhaps more Beyonce too, and Solange. Drake, significant things around Drake, though that may have already kind of happened, though I don't really see him being arrested in Sweden as that significant, but something around the energy of Drake. Two significant countries as well, India and Italy. I'm trying to think of what else I kind of wrote down because I don't want to open up my notes while I'm recording. But yeah, two significant countries, I think India and Italy. The whole, I think there will be some breakthroughs, particularly in this. I want there to be a breakthrough in this. The case of the little missing girl from Charlotte, Madalena. I believe, I don't think she was. I feel like she was kidnapped, but I don't think it was like a murder kidnapping. It was probably more like human trafficking kidnapping. But I think that perhaps they may have a breakthrough in that, and in that breakthrough may lead to the breakthrough in solving some other crimes, right? Because typically, that seems more like organized crime. Trying to think what else I wrote down. The bigger things, though, I think that that we're going to see more things that just shock the eye, like even with like the football player collapsing, it'll just be these things that are just very jarring. I think it's going to be a very jarring kind of year for a lot of people. It's a 7 year, so it should be very significant. The last time we had a 7 year was 2014, and then before that would have been 2005. Now 2005 was significant for me in that that's when I first left my home state of Mississippi. So so for me personally, as I am a 7, it becomes a very significant kind of year. I'm trying to think about 2014 being significant. 2014 was significant as well in terms of that shift, that move. So for me, it kind of comes out as a relocation thing. But I think if you were to look, you want to look personally, you look back to those 2 years, you'll see kind of what has happened. I actually think it's going to be significant in like breakthroughs for a lot of people too. As well, not just those years as being significant. It's like that 100-year anniversary of the discovery of King Tut's tomb, which also coincided with the First World War, right? And there was something very significant that happened. So King Tut's tomb was prepared by the Pharaoh Ai. The Pharaoh Ai, his cartouche would read, "Everlasting are the manifestations of Ra." It's a very interesting cartouche. And I just recall that because I kind of been looking at some of this stuff recently. But with it being so at the time when they discovered his tomb, I believe they discovered some musical instruments, some horns that had been buried in his tomb, and those horns were played over the airways. They wanted to, radio airways, things like that, were kind of new technology, and they wanted to show what we could do with it. So these things were kind of like, it was like, hey, we found these 2,000-year-old instruments, older than that, right? And we're going to play them for the first time for everyone to hear. People were shocked that they were doing this. Some people said that it actually was like this blowing of the horn that kind of triggered the First World War. So it's 100 years after that. So if there was something significant like that, perhaps whatever that energy is may be lifted, or perhaps it's going to resonate in seeing some new war happen in the year 2023. I think this is also a year to be just very prayerful. The most important things, right? And I'm thinking about what I kind of see in the spirit, right? And that is that there's a lot of darkness, and I think if you are a person who has that inner light, that people will see your inner light. Now, how they react to your inner light is it depends on that person. Some people may appreciate your inner light, and some people it may, quote unquote, trigger their demons, right? But I think as we kind of navigate kind of darker times in the spirit, because I read the Revelation. I like to study the Revelation, and I feel like, I don't know where we are. People discuss like the tribulation and pre-trib and post-trib and the coming of the second coming of Jesus. I'm not gonna try to say what in terms of a timing or what I think. I think this experience, we're just living in it, and maybe it is with time, if you have this understanding of time that is not necessarily a constant, right, then perhaps you might experience things on a different timeline from other people. Just based on where you are, because for me, I have talked about this before. It's not something that I talk about a lot, but the things that I have seen in the spirit, it's very interesting to have seen these things, and then as I become more committed to reading the Bible and developing my faith, I think it's like, aha, that's kind of what I was seeing. But certainly, like, there have been times when I've seen the four horsemen of the apocalypse standing on top of a skyscraper. Perhaps that's looking over New York City, though I won't say that I know for certain that that's where I was seeing this, because I wasn't necessarily seeing in New York City at the time. But it feels like that we are closer to the spirit world than we have been in the past. And for me personally, it's one thing to see like things in the spirit, so like a dream state, or to have visions. It is something very new that we are having experiences here in the 3D. Like, um, I was walk I was walking through Walmart one day, and um, it was just like things were just flying off the shelf, and when you have a strong energy, perhaps sometimes things like that happen. But these are things that I noticed just about me personally, and I suspect that I am not unique in this. Other people perhaps will have these type of experiences. Perhaps they will have them even stronger than me. Um, Let me find my words, because I want to be very as exact as possible. It's sometimes things are intangible, and trying to make them palpable, it can be a bit difficult for me. Though I do feel like my throat chakra is a lot more open than it has been in a long time. But I do think that people are going to have very different experiences. And for me, I can look back on my life and say that, my experiences have been kind of unique in that, as a person who has studied a lot of science, studied a lot of math, kind of like in the practical kind of sciences, that my lived experiences show that there is something beyond that. And there's been a time where I've had people say to me, "Oh, you should not talk about those things because they would make you appear schizophrenic." Now, I do understand that, but the thing about it is that schizophrenics typically, would have like multiple kind of schizophrenic episodes, but I don't think my experiences kind of fit that mold, right? But certainly, like, when we go to the doctors, we're not always telling the doctors, "Oh, do you believe that you can receive messages from this, that, and the third?" We might say no, because we don't want to appear schizophrenic. But that may be a part of an agenda as well, because things like psychotropic medications perhaps would suppress those kind of things in a person. But yeah, I'm going to probably come back and review my notes and see if there's anything that I want to follow up on. But I do think that is significant. Headline making 2023 for sure. I think the date of 4/13, right before Valentine's Day, significant day. And even for me, this Cancer full moon that's coming up, I know that'll be significant for me. And I tend to believe that there's a lot of, as I connect to nature, I see a lot of connection between what I experience and what kind of happens, in the environment around me. But I wanted to share that. Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say to you. But yeah, that's my message for you. Praise God. Read the book of Revelations. Reading the book of Revelations is a blessing in itself. The words are powerful. Remember that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Get what you can out of the journey. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. All right.